Welcome to Commish'd, where we'll be helping you take on your fantasy football game to the next level. Whether it's your first season or 10th season, we got you covered. I'll be your host, Ian. I'll be riding with my main man, Tom. This whole way through, we'll be talking about all your fantasy football. Like today, we're talking about strategy. We'll get into players that we like, who's fallen, who you should target. So go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, and let's get into it.
Yeah, let's hop right in. So, like Ian said, I'm Tom. I've been playing fantasy football now for, I'd say, around 10 years. It's tough to pinpoint exactly when I started, but the good thing is I'm usually pretty consistent. Last year, just bringing up the past, I was in 5 different leagues. 4 out of the 5 leagues I came in first, second, or third. So I think I have a pretty good grip on fantasy, and I know Ian does too. He's done pretty well the past few years too.
Yeah, it's tough balancing the leagues and all that. Like I call it my big league because that's where it's like a bunch of our buddies. Shout out to the U Football League. Like the past 3 years, been in the championship, won back to back, which no one's done in our league at least. So I have to bring that up. Yes, I'm the guy. I drafted Jordy Nelson the first year I did fantasy football when he was hurt. I'll never live that down, even if I keep winning. It doesn't matter. So I mean, you can start from anywhere, and that's the whole point of this. Like you start somewhere, and we got to where we were. Definitely growing pains for me specifically. There still are. Still make stupid choices and all that, but that's why we're going to be running through it all. So like today, we're going to be focusing on draft strategy. No, this is not an end-all, be-all. Like, hey, this is what you have to do. It's just for me specifically, for Tom, what we've seen, what works. So like my favorite strategy is like I like to get your studs, the plug and play in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
So if there's your stud running back there, you take him. Then the next round you get your wide receiver. The next get either the wide receiver or running back, whoever you didn't get the first couple rounds. And then I'm targeting a tight end, probably 4th round depending who's there.
Yeah.
Or I got to get your solid flex at that point because I'd rather have your main pieces early that are going to get you your 18 to 25 points a game on average, and then just fill everyone in from there.
Exactly. That's the thing you want to do. As long as you can have 4 or 5 studs on your roster, and then kind of bolster around that, whether it be through waivers or trading. It's always good to have those primary pieces locked down early. And I mean, every league you're in, it's gonna be different too. Whether you're in PP, like full PPR, half PPR, so you want to kind of play with it around there. But yeah, I mean, strategy is going to be different for everybody. Like Ian said, there's stuff that we found in our past doing this that we definitely think works and we found success. So that's something that we'll be sharing with you guys along the way. And definitely don't think you should like stick to your plan going in, right? Because things are going to happen. I mean, we live in Buffalo, and most of our drafts, you see Josh Allen go in the first round, and for me, that's not something I'm going to do just because there's so many other quarterbacks out there that are going to get you similar point spreads. I'd rather get my, stud running back that I know is going to perform week in, week out, or like, if you have a top pick, maybe go after like a Justin Jefferson, save your quarterback for maybe like round 5, round 6, you can still find so many studs late.
Yeah, and I agree on that. Like, say if you did the 0 running back strategy, which I tried last year, 2 years ago, I tried that, but then you're missing out on these stud wide receivers. You see everyone picking the good players, and then the running backs that, I mean, you need one at least. I did get like Diggs and Chase, so you had 2 studs right there, but then all of a sudden it's like, all right, now I had to get someone who's probably not even like a backup running back. And then you have to make all these trades, which is good. You can use it as like trade bait if you did the 0 running back, but it's tough. So that's why I like that you say, you can stray away from your plan. It's good to have that strategies sometimes, but
Yeah.
you got to follow the league what they're doing too.
Absolutely. It really all depends on everybody else in your league, like where they're picking, who they're taking, right? I mean, you said last year, I think it was last year, you got Diggs and Chase, and see how quickly, somebody can get hurt, and then there's a huge gap in your lineup if you don't have any stud running backs. So now you're down to Diggs and, a few mediocre receivers. You got to try to balance it out, get a, few solid running backs, get at least one solid receiver, and, that way if something does happen, you're going to be set.
Right. Yeah, another one I like is if you do go the first 3 rounds at least, go running backs, because wide receiver is always so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't get your Justin Jefferson, Chase, Diggs, there's a couple other ones out there, it doesn't matter. And there's not a huge drop off.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have, get your stud running back if you can in the first.
Yep.
And then usually there's a solid option in the second. And then your third pick, it's just someone that you can put in as a flex if needed. Or if when your running backs go down, you can trade one of them. It's
Exactly.
To me, that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. And honestly, this year, I mean, from all the research I've done, running back seems to be pretty deep as well.
Yeah.
So even if you're pick 7, 8, 9, you should still be able to find somebody like a stud you can plug right in. I was actually talking to Ian before we started recording, and there's always Travis Kelce, right? I mean, he's leaps and bounds over all the other tight ends. So where do you feel comfortable taking him if you're at 11, 12? Get the turnaround pick. If he's available, do you go with him or do you go with like a little bit less dynamic running back or a less dynamic receiver? I mean, in my opinion, I kind of see Kelce as a receiver. He's easily Mahomes' primary option. He's gonna get you, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So I definitely see him as a late round, first round pick too. Depending on who's off the board, right? So if there's a stud receiver still or a stud running back that is going to get you the consistent 18 to 25, I'd still go that route. But I mean, if people are flying off the board, that's a solid pickup too.
Yeah, that's why. Yes, it's good to have a strategy in mind, but like you just said, something can happen where all of a sudden, like Travis Kelce is sitting there and it's like, no, I needed to go running backs these first 3 rounds. It's fine. You can deviate from it, especially if you're going to get a stud like that, because he's in a class of his own.
Yeah.
So you can't pass up on something that high of a value that early, and then just go back to it. So then you can do, all right, so my second and fourth round of the picks, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with running backs, or same thing. If someone falls, you can take them. It's just good to have that in mind. This is what I'm going to do. Don't freak out when you see other people taking all these running backs or all these wide receivers. Just stick to what you're doing.
Stick to your plan.
You don't want to go panic mode so early and make a mistake.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've done a few mocks this year, and it seems to be running back heavy up front.
Yeah.
A few receivers sprinkled in, like your Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp even. But yeah, everybody's going running back heavy, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, and that seems to be the position that there's always the major injury.
Yeah.
I hate having an early pick. I've never had an early pick in my big league, but every year when I'm like in the 1, 2, or 3, and you get that running back, it never pans out.
Right.
That's the one that gets hurt. Knock on kind of wood, but it's like
there we go.
I'd hate to pick a running back that early, and then all of a sudden they're done.
Yeah, I mean you go. Just years past, you got McCaffrey, you got Saquon, getting year-long injuries there. I mean, right after, and if you take one of them first, second overall, they get hurt early on, you're
in the hole.
You're toast. I mean, I remember years ago when all the buzz was around David Johnson when he was on the Cardinals, and he was the unanimous first overall pick. I got the first pick, so I took him. Week 1, he goes down, ends up being out for the year. Could have been in a huge hole, but obviously I was able to flip him and get back into it and, still end up placing pretty well in that league. So, I mean, if you do take somebody early and they go down, you got to try to move on the fly, but you just never know what's going to happen with these guys. They got a target on their back, that's for sure.
That's why this year I think I want to try going the three first rounds running back.
Yeah.
It's just because to me that's the scariest position, but it has
it's a good safety
the
net,
highest
though,
payout if you can get them.
Yeah, for sure.
and then you get that trade piece if you can get a solid third option. And to me, there's not that many stud running backs.
Yeah.
At least this year, there's not. And we're starting to get into where this year, next year, it's going to shift.
Yeah.
To where like the younger guys coming in, they're going to start taking over.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a couple of the next episodes we're having, like running backs to stay away from, target duos to target and stay away from. With doing the mock drafts, have you seen like which running backs have you been seeing falling?
Yeah, I mean, falling a little bit later, I've been seeing like ETN, even Nick Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb is somebody who I'd take in the top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems to be pretty consistent every year. But I mean, even like somebody like Brees Hall coming off an injury, if you can get him in, late first round, early second round, I think that could be a solid pickup.
I like Chubb because there's nobody behind him now that like threatens it. I can see him being like the Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Not putting up Derrick Henry numbers, but who's taking the work from him?
He's the guy. I mean, the only other one would be, I mean, maybe Deshaun Watson, but I don't even know how much he's going to be running anymore. So, but yeah, Nick Chubb is somebody who I'm definitely targeting in all my leagues. I mean, I want him pretty early. I think he'll be solid. He usually, knock on wood, stays pretty healthy. And he's a bigger running back, so yeah, I like him a lot.
Nice. Going into like the drafts, like any other kind of strategies that you feel that work, or do you even like bother with any kind of strategy going into it?
It's hit or miss, depending on the league. I'd say, like, I know you mentioned your big league. I have a league that I run that's like my main league, I would say. So that one I definitely prioritize and strategize a little bit more than others, just because it's with so many like friends and people that I know.
Yeah, see them in life.
Exactly. But other leagues that I kind of get asked like right before, hey, you want to hop in? We have one more spot. Like, sure. That one I'm not really going in and doing too much preparation for, strategizing for. It's kind of just I'll go with the flow. It is what it is. But I definitely think from at least my big league, I definitely do a lot of prep, a lot of strategizing. It's something that I'm following, pretty much daily. Once the season starts, just like, hey, who can I get off waivers? Who can I trade for to make my team better? Where can I fill in the gaps on my roster after drafting if there is a gap? So, yeah, I mean, that's how I am. But I know you mentioned, like, hey, this year I want to try 3 running backs in a row. Me, I don't know if I'm on the same page just because, again, if I see somebody else on the board that I like more, like, say I got my, like, 2 stud running backs, and then you get to the 3rd round and somebody like Ramondre Stevenson's there, or, like, even I mean, he won't be there, but like a Tyreek Hill. Obviously, I'm going to go Tyreek Hill over Ramondre Stevenson just because he's another game changer. But, yeah, I think for me, it's kind of go with the flow, personally.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find, like, when you're in the same league year after year, it's easier to kind of pick up on, like, what everyone else is going to be doing so you can kind of strategize that way, too?
I'd say yes, but it's also a double-edged sword because it's the same thing. They can pick up on what you do and try to foil what you do, too. So, and like, I mean, I know you're in my big league, and we've had pretty much the same cast for going on 3-4 years now, and I definitely, like, last year I knew who you were picking before you even picked. So, but yeah, you definitely pick up on people's tendencies, and I think that makes it easier, but it makes it harder that they know yours too.
Right.
So if you can kind of switch it up a little bit and throw them off, that could be a good thing.
It's always going to be tough, like, in my big league for this, like, telling what I'm probably going to be doing. But, like, a lot of the guys in our league, not throwing any shade, but some, like, the sexy name, So I know if I can get that sexy player that puts up points usually and has projections, we use ESPN app, and those come out early, I know I can trade that to at least 2 or 3 people and get another stud that I actually really wanted.
For sure.
So sometimes, like, I'll snake like a handcuff or somebody, or if I see like the next person or 2 people behind that I know they really want, and I don't really need something at that point, I'm taking them.
Still take them. Use them as trade.
I know that I can turn them around and flip them.
Exactly. For that one piece, you might get 2 solid pieces. You can, have that as a solid bench or put them as in a flex. So, yeah, that's definitely a good way to go about it too.
The other thing that I personally like to do, it's not like my biggest secret, but I always check like for the certain players I'm targeting, I need to check their schedules, who they're playing, especially late, because I mean your goal is to make playoffs
Yeah.
and a championship. So I want to make sure that late in the season they're having an easier schedule. They're going to be putting up points, or they're playing teams that are high scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't always pan out that way when you're drafting. It's kind of tough to do.
Yeah.
But I like to do that.
And you obviously never know how some teams are gonna be in the beginning of the year too. Like I know last year a lot of people weren't super high on Jacksonville, and then they came in and actually did exceeded a lot of expectations. So you really never know. I guess a question I have for you, kind of getting back to schedule. I know for your big league at least, you have to always have somebody in a roster spot. If they're on a bye, you have to fill it. Have to have somebody playing.
Yeah.
If you're not in a league like that where they're not on a bye, would you rather kind of stack your buys, or do you like spreading them out?
So if I could stack them where like all of your studs are out the same week, I'm doing that all
Yeah.
day. Take that one loss,
Exactly.
guaranteed one loss to hopefully win out. Yeah, it's tough to because you got to look at schedule, you got to look at bye weeks. It's like, oh great, you're about to get these two people, be like
Yeah.
no, but now they're on the same bye week. You already know I'm going in with a loss.
Exactly.
There's no way.
And that goes back to this, strategizing that we were talking about before. Like in your big league,
Yeah.
you have to have somebody playing in each position weekly. So like you can't have somebody on a bye. So that makes it a lot more difficult when you're
Yeah.
drafting and then going through the year, making any trades you make, or picking up any waivers. That's something you have to pay attention to.
I know. Yeah, it's tough doing that. I mean, but sometimes at least the early rounds, I don't pay any attention to bye weeks or anything like that. It's late when you're starting to fill in your roster. It's like, all right, who will I be able to plug in here? Because I like to have as complete as a roster as I can, where I don't have to worry about waivers all the time.
For sure.
I then just use that as injuries
Right.
only, and that's it. Because it's tough to do it, but if you can set it where your lineup is good the whole season with bye weeks, then that's huge. I've only been able to do that a couple times.
Yeah.
Where I didn't have to really worry about it, but usually a lot of the ones where you're in an issue, it's late in the season anyways, so you got plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, there's always people you can pick up too.
Yeah.
People that might have had an injury in the beginning of the year, people who've been playing well. So and that really all depends on what size league you do too, right?
Yeah.
So like whether you're in a 10-man, 12-man, that's gonna be a big difference maker too.
Yeah, and majority I feel like what we'll be talking about is like your 12-man PPR. I think you've done a couple 10-man. I mean, that's the same thing. It's just you can get more studs personally in the early rounds for that because there's less people involved. But yeah, a lot of the 12-man PPR, that's my favorite.
Me too.
Anyways,
Same here.
I've done a couple other ones that just, I don't know. I don't like it. That's the only way I'll do it.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the 12-man too. 10-man, like you said, you get a lot more studs, especially in the early rounds, but I think the 12-man makes it more fun.
Yeah.
You got to fill in your roster with people who aren't going to be as talented as some of the others, so you got to navigate your way doing that. So I always lean towards 12-man leagues if I can.
That has a little bit more like skill involved. Yes, fantasy football, like 80% of it is luck. I mean, the last 20%, it's you doing the work, making sure you're researching solid players and all that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it comes down to luck.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
injuries at least.
For sure. Yeah,
You know?
Injuries are huge, and then if you can score somebody in like a middle to late round that ends up panning out and doing like fantastic, then that's again it's luck. I mean, I remember before Josh Allen went like crazy and everybody wanted him first round. I think it was his second or third year when he went off. I ended up getting him like late, like 9th, 10th round as like a backup quarterback. I had Aaron Rodgers first. He ended up going off, and I was able to slide him in, and I actually won that year. Wow. So it is a lot of luck. You got to kind of luck into the injuries. Hopefully your studs can stay healthy for at least the majority of the year, and if they don't, you gotta hope you have some guys on the bench that can slide in and perform too.
Yeah, that's where I usually like getting your 4 studs in the first few rounds. That way you're already locked in, and then you can just fill in. I mean, hopefully, all 4 don't go down. I mean, you're almost guaranteed to have 1 or 2 injuries a season. It happens. Everyone has to deal with it. It's just you can't panic and get nervous and then, all right, I'm starting to trade everyone away. Like last year when I had Chase that went down, I traded him. I traded Diggs.
Yeah.
People thought it was a panic trade, but didn't look at what I was actually getting because again, everyone wants to look at that sexy name.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you getting rid of him? And it's like, because I'm getting 6 different pieces
Yeah.
that I need if something ever happens again.
Exactly. If you can trade one big name player and get 3, 4 solid people you can fill in, that definitely makes up a gap. If you do have injuries, you have other people that can slide in. So that's something I'm always looking to do as well. If you can move one to get multiple back, I'd say go for that every time.
Yeah, I'll never trade 1 for 1 if I don't have to, because then that's just pure luck.
Yeah.
It's just a toss up.
Exactly.
Unless again, that's where you could look at schedule. Be like, all right, he does have a way better schedule going into it.
Or if you want to kind of stack it up, right? So if you do have, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and you have Jamar Chase as well, and you want, the stack with Diggs or Kelsey, at that point you might consider it a one-on-one just to have the double up, just get the 2 for 1 there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times the 1 for 1's really, they don't do anything. It's going to get you in the same position in most cases.
No. The stack has been solid the past 2 years. If you get that, if you can have Burrow and Chase, that's huge. Even the Josh Allen Diggs is massive. I love stacking that. I hate stacking a stud wide receiver with the same running back.
Yeah.
Because then it's like you can't hope for both of them to get a touchdown.
Yeah. But on the contrary, you have them both on the field, so you do have double the chance of at least getting some points if
they do nothing.
Yeah, if they both do nothing, then you're
off the field again. So.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same position. If you can stack a receiver and a quarterback that are going to be good together, go that route. But I wouldn't take a stud receiver and a stud back from the same team. I'd try to stay away from that if I can.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're both, if there's somebody you can't pass up on, and they're available, you might want to do it, and then you could always use somebody as trade bait. But yeah, I'd stay away from that too.
Yeah. Even like a wide receiver tight end, it's not terrible, but I mean, there's not enough tight ends to where you could do that.
I mean, like we were talking about Kelsey in the beginning. I think after Kelsey, it's a pretty big fall off. I mean, you have Mark Andrews, but if Lamar goes down, you never know. And after that, I mean, who would be third in line? I mean,
even with Odell though going there, he's gonna want
the ball. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so I think after Kelsey, it definitely goes way
that's
down.
A significant drop off.
Oh, yeah.
That's why with these strategies, if you had Kelsey that's there in the first round, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna take him. Say you have the 11th pick, I would take him all day.
100%.
And then sure, let 12 take a wide receiver, running back, whatever. But you're gonna have another huge piece.
You're gonna get a good person on the turn still. So yeah, and that the person who has the 12th pick is gonna take Kelsey in one of his 2 picks.
Probably.
So it's better steal him and then get another stud receiver, stud running back on the turnaround.
Because he's not a reach. I mean, I wouldn't take him before the 8th pick.
No.
But if he's there, I'd scoop him.
Yeah, 8 to 12, 9 to 12, I'd absolutely keep my eye on him. Before that, like we were saying in the beginning, there's so many good running backs, so many good receivers this year. You're going to be passing up on somebody that's going to get you a lot of points, for going for a tight end first round.
Yeah, it's going to be the late rounds this year. That's going to be, I mean, it's hit or miss a lot of times, but you definitely got to do some research on.
Yeah.
Your final few rounds. I mean, should be fine this year though.
Yeah. For me, if I'm somebody that doesn't get Kelsey in the first round, I'm definitely waiting till pretty late in the draft, just because I mean the drop off is pretty significant, and if there's a pretty large group of guys that are around the same boat. So after that, I'm not taking anybody for a while.
Yeah, and someone random will always pop off throughout the year.
I know last year Dalton Schultz had a solid year. It's like okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And then look at what happened. Waller, people took him early.
Yeah,
he gets hurt, and people come saying, "Oh, he's gonna come back," and he did.
Yeah,
but he didn't do anything. I think he had one good game.
That's a player that's a player I can't get behind.
No,
I can't do it. All his injuries and all that, I just can't take him.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Again, it's a big name, but you can't look at just the name. And
I mean, last year Kyle Pitts was a big name. How did he do?
he ain't no unicorn.
He is not.
But I mean, that's all we're talking about today. Draft strategies. Send what you guys like to do. See things that have worked for you. Then we can, even if you have questions about ones that we've tried before, even what we discussed. Next episode, we're going to be talking about running back duos that we like, and then that just don't even bother. And also wide receiver duos that you could take both and still both produce for you. And then also just wide receiver rooms you probably don't even want to look at.
Yeah, and like Ian said, if there's anything you guys do differently that we didn't mention, be sure to share that with us. Help us out too. We're helping you guys. But yeah, like Ian said, tune in next week. We're talking about running backs and receivers a little bit more. Like he said in the beginning, be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Absolutely. See you guys next week.
Kind